So you appeared in the movie Fanboys, and throughout that, like in parts of that movie, there's like this intense rivalry between Star Wars and Star Trek, and I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on the whole Star Wars versus Star Trek thing?
Of the Star Wars, Star Trek thing? Star Wars versus Star Trek. You know, I'm going to treat that seriously. Well, usually, you know, Star Wars, you know. But that's an interesting thought. Star Wars, first of all, Star Wars created Star Trek. You don't know that? Yes. I heard someone say, what? I'm going to tell you how. So Star Trek, the Star Trek I was in lasted 3 years, was canceled. It was gone. It was, you know, it was in the top 40 popular shows, and every year there was the threat to be canceled. And the third year they canceled it, and everybody accepted it. We were on the verge, on the margin every year, and the third year the ratings went down a little, and they canceled, and we were history. 6 years later, I think it was 6 or 7 years later, something called Star Wars, done by George Lucas, who was a fan of Star Trek, explodes in the American public. And you could hear the people at Paramount Studios as against, what was George's studio? 20th Century Fox. So at another studio, George was working at another studio. At Paramount Studios, they were running around, bumping into each other. What have we got? What have we got that can equal Star Wars? It's a big thing. It's making billions of dollars. There's this thing that we canceled under another management. It was called Star Trek. Let's resurrect that. And they started running around. Do we make a new series? Do we do a movie of the week? Let's make a movie. And we'll get Robert Wise. Robert Wise, one of the biggest directors in Hollywood at that time, to direct it. We'll make a big movie. We'll equal Star Wars. And Bob Wise, who was one of the great directors, is brought in. He's there because his wife said, Bob, I married you. I can't believe I married you. You don't know what Star Trek is? I love Star Trek. Go do it. And he's urged by his wife to go do Star Trek. So he does Star Trek. But Star Trek was done so easily that the special effects that were put in, that a director looks at the special effects, the special effects guy is doing as much as possible. It's my special effects. But you need a director to say, nah, too much, cut there, put that, yeah, and edit. There was no time to edit. That film, you know, they talk about film arriving wet. We were in Washington, D.C. for the premiere of the movie, and the guy was coming in, running into the theater with a film clutched under his arm. There had been no time to edit the special effects, so the movie was flawed and didn't make much money. Paramount said, oh, geez, well, I guess we're not going to. And the head of Paramount Studios, what's his name, the guy, no, before Mancuso, the guy who owned Paramount, his wife said, you can't cancel, you got to make more movies, and we went on to make more movies cheaper. But it was Star Wars that thrust Star Trek into the people at Paramount's consciousness. Okay? You okay? Star Trek, at its best, tells human stories, philosophical. There's humanity. There's something girding underneath the story. There's a principle involved, and it's well done. It's about people. Star Wars was grand. It was like opera, and it was huge, and it had great special effects, and it was a marvelously entertaining film, but wasn't specifically about people the way those Star Treks were. Okay? All right. We have to put a pin in it. We're overtime. What can I say? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. William Shatner.